bear with us. Just bear with us. Ariel and I are quite the dynamic duo, and we love facilitating in person, and we like to crack jokes, and our hands are constantly moving. So through Zoom, it's been quite the experience to have to kind of get that through the screen. So just bear with us while we do Zoom, because it's not our forte. We enjoy getting together with people face to face.
Can you see it, Amanda?
Yeah. There we go. So with that being said, again, welcome. We, Ariel and I both work within the Bridge to Work Employment Placement or Employment Program for ECEs. And so we're just gonna give a little bit of a backstory as to how the program came to be. So a little history. There was a shortage of early childhood educators back in 2014 when the ministry decided to create a full day approach for JK and SK students. So traditionally they were going part-time 2 days a week, a couple hours a day, and then the ministry came in and changed that. So now you have all these children who were only going part-time, now able to go full-time, which is great for parents and caregivers and guardians who then were able to return to work on a full-time basis. But the need was there wasn't enough spots within childcare and before and after school programs to facilitate that return to work for those parents and guardians. What happened was that there was long wait times, parents that were allowed to go back to work because their children were in school weren't able to because there was no care for before and after. So the ministry stepped in, the government stepped in 2016 and said, okay, we recognize there's a problem. And what we're going to do is we're going to create 20,000 new, or 100,000 new spots for these children. But if you understand anything about childcare, about before and after school programs, there's something that's called a ratio. So there is only a certain amount of students and children allowed per educator. So the government really could have created 1 million new childcare spots. If we don't have enough educators, that really wasn't mitigating the issue. So what happened was that at that point in time, there was 20,000 new ECEs needed to facilitate those 100,000 new childcare spots that were being opened up. But as it stood, there was only 2,500 students graduating from Mohawk, from Sheridan and other respective colleges, only graduating to fill that need. So there was still a discrepancy of 12,500 educators needed back in 2016. That number now has grown, and especially with COVID as well, that has now created it's more like 15,000 new childcare educators are needed to meet that discrepancy. So,
All right, that's
so the YMCA noticed that there was a need for a program like this. There was a call for action. And so with the YMCA having an office for newcomer information, an office called the Newcomer Information Center, we see hundreds and thousands of individuals every year that are immigrating to Canada, that have experience, they're ready and willing and able to work, they have education behind them. And a lot of them showed an interest in working in schools with children, as well as other industries as well, but that specifically. And so the YMCA back in 2017 did a pilot program to test and see if there was a need, and there was. So in 2018 then is how when our program started. So we now are looking for those individuals, and we'll talk about eligibility and suitability to meet that need and bridge that gap from the educators that are needed in order to assist with that discrepancy.
So now that we know there's a need for the program, our program was developed into a 4-week training, which pre-COVID, it was an in-person training. Unfortunately, because COVID, we have had to move our training platform online via Zoom. Previously, there was a full-time commitment for all participants to attend our in-class training for our work preparation. So it was from Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. until 3 p.m. There were a few days like first aid CPR that our participants were required to do the full 16-hour 2-day training. However, now that we have moved everything virtually, we do trainings Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. till 12 p.m. Hopefully when things get back to normal, we'll be able to move that back to in-person training. But for now, we do all of our cohort training via Zoom. Following the 4-week training that our participants are put through, they are placed in a childcare center for 16 weeks. So it's a 16-week work placement. And they are paired with a mentor, somebody who is qualified in the field of childcare. We do like them to be paired with registered early childhood educators. And that gives our participants the opportunity to have hands-on experience, as well as a mentor who they can ask questions and really just view the mentor interacting with the children in person. It's been a great asset to the Bridge to Work program, since having a mentor is encouraging also our participants to continue education after they're all done their 16-week work placement. Now, with our 16-week work placement, they are not guaranteed to be a paid placement. Amanda and I do have great relationships with our community childcare organizations, such as Today's Family, Kiwanis Boys and Girls Club, Tiny Hoppers, and Wesley Urban Ministries, where we have been able to get our participants a paid placement. But that's not the case. It's not promised, but we really hope to get them a paid placement because then it shows the need to have that participant in the childcare center. And once their 16-week placement is complete, there's still a need to fill that educator position. So hoping that our participant did really well, they would continue employment. So this is just a sample of our training schedule and just some of the topics that we cover over the 4 weeks. So this is what it looked like when we did full-time training in a classroom setting. However, since it's moved virtually, we do cover all of these topics still, just a little bit differently. So the first week, we really just focus on preparing our participants for an interview. So each participant in the program will partake in an interview with a hiring manager, depending on what organization they're going to be working for. So the first week, again, is talking about workplace culture, the attitude, punctuality that's expected. And then we head into cover letters and resumes. That's an important one. A lot of our participants come into the program with resumes already done, but Amanda and I work with them one-on-one and support them to create a resume that is specific to childcare, using those key terms and making it appealing to their experience back home, as well as what they have to offer to the childcare center here. We also discuss interview preparation strategies and mock interviews. Mock interviews are great to have. Our participants seem to like them, as we discuss different questions they may encounter, different personality questions that may be asked throughout the interview as well. Then we cover any childcare policies we think they may need and knowledge such as child protection as they go into their interviews. The second week, the program really focuses on just completing those interviews, as well as participants, in order to work in a childcare center, they do need to have a medical immunization update, as well as a TB test to ensure that they can work in that childcare center, as well as a police check. So the second week really focuses on our participants getting those 3 things and really being successful in the interview. If our participants are successful in the interview, we head into week 3 where we focus on childcare etiquette training, as well as Employment Standards Act. 2 really great certificates our participants receive in our program is a food handler certificate. So the 3rd week, we set our participants up with an access to do the test and do some test preparation for the exam. Food handlers is not required to work in childcare. However, we found over the years, having our participants that have a food handler certificate are more employable and are an asset to the childcare center. So that's a certificate that our program does pay for our participants to be employable within the program. Then they must have their first aid CPR level C in order to work in any childcare setting in Ontario. So we do set up our participants for that and support them through that certification. The last week, we do have a big focus on work-life balance, what it's like to balance stress, how you're going to work full-time and take care of your family, as well as we go over hiring policies and practices that are needed within the childcare center. So because we work with many organizations throughout Hamilton for placements in childcare, those placements have been amazing, and they've given us papers and files that participants need to read and do little quizzes and things like that. So Amanda and I are there to support our participants reading through those, answering any questions they may have. And yeah, so that's what's covered.
So then when we talk about eligibility for the program, we're looking for individuals that are permanent residents or convention refugees. We're also looking for individuals that are trained internationally as a teacher or an early childhood educator. And again, through this process of working with individuals that are internationally trained, we've discovered that their education system is quite different than ours. So they traditionally here, we would get a bachelor's of education to be a teacher, or you would go and get your diploma in ECE and become a registered ECE to work in childcare. And in other countries, it's a little different. So respectively, back home in their countries, they've gotten a bachelor's of engineering and then have proceeded to go and teach elementary school math, or they've got a master's in agriculture and then have turned around and taught science for high school students. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a bachelor's of education. We're just looking for that internationally trained diploma and then looking to have that experience or that education linked with working specifically with children. So that takes us into experience working with children in teaching, a childcare setting, social service setting. We've had psychologists that were specifically child psychologists, anything in that nature, working closely with children. We also ask that their English benchmark be a level 6 or higher. Through the pilot program, it was a level 5, and we just found that a level 5, when it comes to the amount of reading, paperwork, understanding of the extensive knowledge of the ministry's requests in regards to working with children, it just wasn't quite enough for them to have a real grasp and understanding to have them be successful in their placements. So we're looking for a level 6 or higher. And as well, the YMCA offers those English assessments. So if you have a client and you're not sure, or they're not sure what that benchmark is, feel free to reach out to our office, and we can definitely set up a time to have their their benchmark assessed to see what level they are at. As well, must be successful in securing their placement. So they have to pass that interview like Ariel was talking about in that second week of our program. So thus far, not to toot our own horns, but we are 100% successful with our participants passing the interview to continue with the second and third, or the third and fourth week, sorry, of the program. So they need to be successful in that interview process to continue with the remainder of the program. As well, like Ariel mentioned, they have to be able to pass that medical clearance, TB, as well as their vaccinations before their placement begins in order to start their placement and continue with the remainder of the program and then the 16-week placement, as well as be able to provide their employer with a vulnerable police check in the vulnerable sector, again, before the first day of placement, in order to be eligible for the remainder of the program. So then when we talk about eligibility, the other part we look for is suitability. And you can have a participant be eligible, but they might not be suitable. So they don't necessarily go hand in hand. So when we look for suitability, we're looking for individuals not only to be eligible, but also to enjoy working with children, have that demonstrated passion to enjoy what they're doing and have that experience working with children on their resume to kind of showcase that passion. As well, we're looking for individuals that are available for a 16-week work placement. So we've had some individuals that say, great, I can do 9 to 3. Well, that doesn't really work with the sector that they're trying to get into. So they do have to be available 7 to 6. Not that they're going to work for that time frame, but available for a shift in between those times. They also have to be able to commit to the 4-week training that we facilitate. And again, now that we're bringing it through COVID online, that brings its own barriers to the training. But we do ask that they're available for the 4 weeks of the training, and they have some sort of childcare arrangements in place, understanding that children are home from school, people are doing online learning, whether it be synchronized or asynchronized. So we do ask that they have, to some degree, a quiet place to be able to sit and participate in the training that we're facilitating. Understandably, you're going to have children that need to come in. I'm one of them that need assistance throughout the training. But if they are able to set aside that time to have hopefully uninterrupted time, we're looking for that, as well as access to technology and Zoom. Again, with COVID and children being at home, and they respectively need their own computers and tablets, but we're asking that they have some sort of piece of technology to be able to use for the 4 weeks of training as well, for the Monday and the Thursday from the 10 to 12. And as well, we're looking for individuals that self-identify that they're able to meet these requirements, that they're a team player, they're willing to learn, they're willing to do laundry, wash dishes, play outside twice a day. These are all ministry requirements when working in childcare, as many other employments within Canada. It's multifaceted. Everybody have many hats. And so when working with children, as much as we enjoy working with children and teaching them through play, there's also some light housekeeping that needs to get done throughout the day. So they need to be willing to participate in that and play outside for 2 hours a day, once in the morning for an hour, once in the afternoon for an hour as well. And we have had some participants that have met the eligibility, all of the suitability, until we get to the bottom part and they're like, I'm not playing outside in the snow. So, and they've self-identified that, and that was kind of a breaking point for them. So as long as everybody's able to meet the eligibility and the suitability, that would be a great referral for the program.
So once our participants successfully complete our 4-week training, as well as the 16-week work placement, there's a lot of positive outcomes that come with completing the program. So not only are they getting valuable information through the workplace preparation training and all the certificates like the food handler certificate and the first aid certification level C that they attain while completing their training, but they're also getting that specific childcare training. They're getting hands-on experience and one-on-one time with a mentor. So we do pair each participant up with a mentor, preferably a registered ECE, within the childcare center. Again, like I said earlier, to ask questions, to see that those meaningful interactions happening within the classroom, but also they're also set up with 2 hours a week to sit with that mentor one-on-one and have a conversation on what they're learning, get clarification on anything they may have. If they would like to, sit down and look at one of the documents online, like the CCEYA or policies and procedures within the childcare center, there's a mentor, somebody that they can trust will show them the right way to work in a childcare center. So once they get that specific childcare training, once the 16-week work placement is complete, they get work experience. That's a big factor, especially for our internationally trained educators that we're sending out into the workforce. They're getting that work experience in a childcare center, and they're obtaining work references that they can use to extend their opportunities in the field of childcare as well. So program goals, of course, it's to get meaningful permanent employment in the childcare field. Our program prides itself on having a 92% success rate of all participants gaining extended employment after their placement has completed. So 92% are being offered extended employment within before and after programs, early on programs, as well as full day kindergarten or full day childcare, full day childcare programs. That's a great success. The other ones that aren't offered, unfortunately, it may be because there's no need for the educator in that center at that time, or the educator just isn't interested in continuing their journey in working in childcare. Again, they're still going to get those certifications once they complete our program, references to have in the workplace, as well as work experience, which we all know is super important to have. Also, in addition to gaining that meaningful permanent employment in childcare, we have had participants go on to continuing their education in childcare. So they do have their internationally trained piece of education. However, they choose to continue their education here in Canada. One program in particular is the childhood, I'm blanking on the word, Amanda.
Childcare practitioner.
Yes, Childhood Development Practitioner ECE Apprenticeship Program. It is a mouthful. It is an apprenticeship program offered by Ontario colleges that allows participants to work while earning their registered early childhood education diploma. We have had participants go through it and are still in the program, as it is a 4-year program. We even had one participant complete the ECE Fast Track Mohawk College diploma. She is now a registered ECE, and 2 years later is still working in her placement that she did her bridge to work placement in. So we've had great successes, and it's great to see our participants moving on to further their career in childcare, especially since we have seen such a need in registered ECEs, especially with the pandemic. There has been a greater need, as Amanda said, in getting those qualified childcare educators. So,
and then the nice thing about the apprenticeship, is that with the apprenticeship, like Ariel said, so it takes you 4 years to get through the program, versus if you were to do it traditionally, it would be 2. But the benefit of going through the apprenticeship is that you get to do that hands-on learning. You still are able to work while you're attending the apprenticeship because it is part-time. but it's also paid for 80%. So your portion that you pay for is only 20% of tuition. The other 80% is covered, and there's actually a completion bonus as well at the end of the program that helps assist in paying for the 2 electives that you have to take within the program to complete the certificate. So it's really been helpful for a lot of individuals to get that ECE. It is a bit of an undertaking to do 4 years, but when you're able to work alongside of it and able to make both of those needs get met, it's been a godsend for a lot of our participants. So as well, within the program, like Ariel was saying, so we have many participants who are still in placement to this day after they've completed. This participant is group 3. We're actually just finishing off group 11 next week and sending them out into their placements. But as you can see, we have great success in individuals staying in their placements after the fact. And a lot of that is contributed to just our process of being able to, if you want to say, vet them while we're doing our 4 weeks of training. And usually you can pick up if there's going to be some sort of an issue or barrier or an area that we need to kind of address before they start the placement. But as well, the extensive experience and knowledge and education that they're coming to Canada with that really assists them in being successful in these placements. As well as Ariel and I do things a little different than a lot of other programs. So the way we like to tap into placements is we don't just find a place that's willing to take on a student or a placement student or a volunteer to, assist them in getting that hands-on experience. But we like to actually find a place that, or a center that has a need, and they're looking to fill that need and hiring somebody. So what better way to fill the need and hiring someone than, a participant like ours who has extensive experience, education. They've gone through our program, so they've been, observed for 4 weeks. They come with, a lot of our participants use us as a reference because they're lacking Canadian references. And that's how we found that we have individuals that are in group 2, as you can see in this bubble here, who's still employed because after their placement had ended, the center has 2 options. They either go back to square one and they start the hiring process all over again, or they have this individual who's been there for 16 weeks. They've created a great rapport with the children, with the family, with their coworkers. So they tend to go with that person because they've just seen them for the last 16 weeks grow, mature, create rapport and relationships. And so we have individuals that are still hired 2-3 years later.
And with that being said, going back to the apprenticeship opportunities, we, all the childcare supervisors that have taken a placement participant have been, you can see in the bubble here, are more than happy to assist these individuals with continuing their education through the apprenticeship program. They're encouraging because, like we said, there is a need for registered ECEs. So when they get someone who's really good and enjoys their job in the moment and is contributing to the childcare team, they want to hold on to these employees and they want to help them become registered ECEs. So we've seen really great feedback from supervisors in childcare who have hosted participants in terms of helping them continue their education or even their just career. And then this is just one other page of all our comments and successes. Toot toot.
And again, you can see there's one from Tiny Hoppers. So we really try to branch out It's not just within Hamilton that we have great relationships, like Ariel was saying previously. Tiny Hoppers of Burlington has participated in supporting the program. We have before and after school programs within Brantford that's taken on participants, a full day in Burlington as well, and numerous ones within Kiwanis Boys and Girls Club. We had an early on center as well that took a participant. So we really are trying to branch out into the community and have other organizations as well as our own, but other organizations as well, like Tiny Hoppers, support the program and assist these clients in gaining those Canadian references, Canadian work experience, and hopefully assisting them in their journey of just meaningful employment. So, sorry, that being said, here's our contact information. We have an ongoing intake process, so we don't have a specific time that we do intakes. Whenever there is a good referral and somebody reaches out to us, we're more than happy to sit with them and explain the program and the process and eligibility. So here's our information. We're not in the office, as you can tell. So cell phones or emails are the best way to connect with us. And we have 3 to 4 groups that run a year. With that, it really depends on how many we have within our group. As much as, nonprofit numbers are important, but quality is also really important to us in our program. So generally we're supposed to have 3 programs, but if we need to have a smaller program and have another program to ensure that we're just getting really strong candidates, because it is a competitive process, that's what we do. So 3 to 4 programs a year with a rotating intake process. And I think we have a couple.
We have a couple questions, but that's fine.
Yeah.
So we are ready for some questions. Let me get us out of here. I'm going to stop sharing. Perfect. I don't know what my computer's doing. Okay, perfect. So, Chantal, do you wanna go ahead first, or?
Sure, no problem. Thanks for the information. That was really useful. So my first question is, is this funded through the Ontario Bridge Training Program from the Ministry of Labor? No?
It is not, no. So it's funded through IRCC, so Immigration, Refugee, Canadian, and Citizenship.
Okay, so just through like a settlement, like your settlement services?
Correct, yes, through the immigrant. The apprenticeship that we were speaking of is funded through the trade skills and development, but our program is not, but the apprenticeship is.
Okay, and my other question was, is this something that your association is considering scaling to other regions, or is just a sort of like a best practice sharing?
The program itself?
Right.
I think I've heard rumors that people are interested, other organizations, YMCA, other cities are interested, but anything specifically, that's not something that we're aware of at this time, but there has been some talk about that. Hopefully that would be nice to see, because I think right now we're really kind of one of a kind.
Okay, thanks.
No worries, thank you.
And Jacqueline, welcome.
Hi, thank you. First of all, I want to thank you. What a great presentation, Ariel and Amanda. Just totally impressed. I have oversight to licensed childcare in Northeastern Ontario for the YMCA, and you know your subject matter. We definitely are struggling right now with professional early childhood educators, even assistant educators. And I think this is an amazing program. I know Chantal is on here from our Immigrant Services program as well. And we're really looking at trying to see if this is something that we would be able to look at for our association, because not only for the Y, but other childcare operators, there's certainly a shortage of ECEs. And maybe you answered this question already. Are there any other Ys that are doing something similar to this, either through employment services or immigrant services?
For ECE specifically, I believe we are kind of, or one of a kind at the moment.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think there's been some talk, but nothing that we've been made aware of. And no, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so if you were interested in looking into this a little bit further, what would your recommendation be for Chantal and I?
Jody.
Sorry, I'm actually the program coordinator. I'm just keeping quiet because they do such an amazing job. But you can be in contact with me and I can give you some more information. So I will send you my email address through the chat. But I'm just going to I'm just going to let them get back because they're doing an amazing job. So I don't want to interrupt.
Absolutely. Yeah, you guys should be extremely proud of this program. Very, very impressed.
Thank you.
Ariel and I haven't left our house in 15 months. So if you need people to come travel and talk to other individuals, we'd be happy to just jump on a
Yes.
You guys are very sweet.
There we go. And then we just had, was that everything, Jacqueline?
Yes, I'll put my hand down. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. And then we have Deborah just asked a question about are the costs of police checks covered by the program, or does the participant need to pay? So the participant does assume that cost of the police check. We do have some participants that work with Ontario Works or Employment Services where they may have access to those paid trainings or paid police checks. However, our program right now is only covering the cost of food handlers and the first aid CPR. Everything else is assumed by the participant unless there's another situation that they've confided in. Yeah.
Speaking, most of our referrals tend to come from a provincially funded ESO, so they're getting referred to us. So usually, like Ariel said, there is some sort of training stipends that they can access, or if they're on OW, there is some stipends as well to encourage them to find employment that they can tap into as well. So usually between us and the service providers, employment service providers, we're able to cover those costs. So generally speaking, there's not a lot of cost. Any other questions?
I have one more question because this is done through your settlement program. Is it you two that offer the training specifically?
We
Yes.
do, yeah.
We do everything from the intake to the training to supporting participants in their placement. And then hopefully after, if they are in extended employment, we work with them to see what we can offer.
And how do you work with the settlement workers as part of the IRCC program?
So within our office, we do have, with our physical office, we do have settlement service specialists that can help our clients if they have needs in regards to, tenant issues, bus situations, rent, any of those sorts of issues. But in regards to the program and the of that, Ariel and I, because we have such different backgrounds, right? Like Ariel has her HR and she has her ECE, which runs
You're cutting it.
in that respect. And then the employment, am I good?
Yeah, you keep cutting out.
Oh, sorry guys. But Ariel has the ECE and the HR side, and then I rounded out with the employment. So been doing it for 15
years
for a few different nonprofits as well. So a good understanding of what employers are looking for.
Amanda, you're cutting out a lot. Just technical difficulties.
Okay, wait, is it better if I shut my screen off?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So just say we make a great team. We're very, with Ariel with the EC and then me with the employment aspect for nonprofit. We have a good understanding of what employers are looking for, but we do bring in other individuals as needed. We had a group that was really interested in finances. So we brought somebody in it wasn't even on our topic, but there was just a need for that group for the information. So we've brought in individuals in per the interests and the needs as well. So if it's not something that we're able to facilitate, we definitely look out of house for somebody to facilitate that information as well.
Okay.
Any other questions before we wrap up today? Perfect. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. We have put our information, if you need to contact us, in the chat, and feel free to contact us anytime. Like Amanda said earlier, email or cell phone is the best way to contact us. And again, thank you and stay safe. I think there's one more message. Oh, there's a thank you.
Just a thank you.
We're good. Okay, goodbye, everyone.
Nice to see everybody. Take care.
Nice to see everyone. I want to see, I gotta stop.